listen, let's get to our conversation, and it's a very simple one. The automated placement system has not placed about 1/3 of those who applied to use it. For those that have been placed, there are issues. Some students have been placed in schools they didn't even choose. Wasn't their option 1, option 2, or option 3, but they've been placed there. Some have been made day students in schools that are hundreds of kilometers away from their homes. These are the same problems that happen every time this so-called automated system is used. Since 2005. It beggars belief that we can still be facing the same problems, and we are yet to figure out how to solve them. Also, let's be clear. Is it automated? If even a cleaner at the Ministry of Education can place your child in a school of their choice, regardless of their grades, as long as you can pay, then is it really automated? We're going to hear from you. We're going to hear from all the stakeholders, including the ministry and GES and everyone. But before that, Ray, I think we should start with basics. First of all the way back in 2005, why did we decide we needed an automated system? What problem was it supposed to solve, and have we solved it?
No, understandably so. Let's look at it from this perspective. There was some time that headmasters were picking cards of students they wanted. Mm-hmm. Student groups, very powerful people who had no business being admitted to certain schools to do certain programs were also being picked up. In fact, the corruption in that system, it made headmasters extremely rich. So at that time, you're better off knowing a head teacher, hoping I'm trying to say, or somebody related to a school, or the board chairman of the school, or somebody who works in the school as a teacher or something like that.
Or an old student.
So that they use all the other means. And we felt it was not fair. It was not based on meritocracy. And that we couldn't at the level teach kids and children that your grades do not matter. Your hard work is immaterial. And that some other factors mattered more, like connections, mattered more than that. So we brought in a fairly, I won't call it complex, but I want a better word. A fairly robust system that will make it impossible for it to be completely left at the mercy of the human beings who are working at it. So your grades determine where you are placed. At first, you choose the schools, and if you don't get the schools, you are not placed in the schools because your grades do not match the schools. Then later on, they realize that let's not force the kids because they may not know their grades are getting. Let's wait now for them to get the grades and let them choose after that. That's why now it's post results, you choose your schools. You get the difference. Mm-hmm. This helped out some way, somehow. And we, along the line, even felt if you are going computerized, we should leave room for some very extraordinary. So, if, let's say, in Cape Coast, there are small towns around Cape Coast where indigenous might not have gone to the best schools in Cape Coast and can still attend some of the best senior high schools in Cape Coast. So it's not made to look like merely because of our underdevelopment we brought to the area and they not having the best schools to go to, they cannot go to some of the best schools in the country. So we introduced affirmative action. Community selections and from poor schools and all of that became an element of the conversation. That was also along the line being abused because the fear was that some people were just picking their kids from, let's say, Morning Star and taking the child to a school that is underprivileged, mainly because that school, when it gets a good grade, fairly good grade, can actually be projected to go to schools that they wanted. So it's part of the system we sought to improve. But what became obvious was that human beings were still virtually controlling a chunk of the admission one way or the other. If it's not a chunk, like a percentage of it, which became problematic. So even with this affirmative action, selection of students, some of the people had no business to be in the schools that they have been given. We have tried almost 2 decades to try and solve the problem of making sure meritocracy is the biggest base for which we get students into senior high schools. And this is where we are today, Kojo.
In fact, when we say this is where we are today, this is what we mean. Let's hear from some parents following this year's automated, with air quotes, placement system.
She had Suhum Presby High School, and I want her to get her second choice, Ghana National since I think that perhaps the Holy Child by now is to be a hot cake now. So I want her to opt for a second choice, Ghana National. She actually chose all the generals and she was given, but she was given Suhum Presby High, which I think that with aggregate 9, she deserves something better than the C school. There's a grading system. We know that from 6 to 9, you get your first class school or A school. Then from the 10 to I think about 16 or so, you have your grade B school. That is what has been given to her. So if my child has gotten 9, she deserves to have her the A school.
I'm here because of the school selection of my daughter. She get Mount Sinai at Mountains, so I'm trying to change her to another school called Methodist over there at Mountains too. Because the one they choose for her, it was not good for her. She get 20. At least they're supposed to put her in a nice one, not to put in the one that is not good. So that's why I'm here to walk around it to see how they can replace her to the better place.
My ward was placed in a STEM school. Meanwhile, the grade was 8. She wants to do pure science and not STEM. We have selected 6 schools, and the grade falls within the category of the first, second. We have already selected the schools. The schools are on the forms. She wasn't given the first, second, nor the third.
The one who chose the school for me, she did a mistake, so I'm here to correct it. He chose a pure technical for me. For me too, I did like secondary technical, so I'm here to correct it. I want to change Mando Senior High School. I had 32.
My word was not placed at all. With the aggregate he got, I'm yet choosing the grade C schools. We've been given the information on what to do with each person's challenge.
We only came to change the residency. I wanted boarding, but I was given a day. So I only came to change it.
Confusion ayabasa across the country. And listen, we know that these stories are only the tip of the iceberg. So call us now, 0302 216 541 055 1111 997. Are you having issues with the system now? Have you had issues with it in the past? What are your thoughts on what is going on now? Has the automated placement system actually solved the problem that it was established to solve? Or has it made it worse? Has it removed the human interface or increased it? Has it limited the role of corruption in placement of children, or has it increased it? Has it made us more of a meritocracy or less of one? I want your thoughts and views. Call us now, and experiences, more importantly, and questions. If you have issues, if you're a parent going through this thing right now and it's not working, the automated is not automating, tell us about it, because we are going to speak to the stakeholders and we'll get answers to your questions. Let's start with Martina Ingbawe. Martina, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling. So what's on your mind?
Thanks for having me. Yeah. My nephew had aggregate 9.
Mm-hmm.
And he chose at this school, at this other college. A grade A school in Cape Coast.
Yeah.
He wanted to read general science.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came, they had placed him at Presby, Suhum somewhere. I don't even know. So, in fact...
Was that one of his choices?
That was his 4th choice or so.
4th.
But aggregate 9, we were told that between 6 and 9, we can get our first choice.
Mm-hmm.
That was the criteria they gave us. But now we can't even know. We don't know what is going on.
Okay. Aggregate 9 chose at this school as his first choice and ended up in his 4th choice, which is Suhum Presby, you said. Okay. Thank you, Martina. We're going to get you an answer to your question, okay? How that could have happened. You can call us too with your questions. 0302 216 541 055 1111 997. We will be speaking to the ministry. We'll be speaking to GES if we get the opportunity, because we want to understand this from all angles. Martina's question was, Her nephew chose at this school. He got aggregate 9, and so the expectation was that he would get his first choice, but he didn't. He was given his 4th choice, which is Suhum Presby, I believe. How did that happen is her question. Lucky is on the line. Lucky, where are you calling from?
Calling from Volta region.
Very good. Anloga, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, Lucky, what's your question?
Oh, me, I have experienced this computerized system placement.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was like the school that I didn't choose. That was the school that I had, and I have to move from all the way from Kumasi to Volta region. Yeah.
Lucky, what school did you end up going to in the Volta region?
I attended Amos Secondary School.
And it wasn't one of your choices at all?
No, it wasn't none of my choice.
What was your aggregate? Do you mind telling us?
19.
Aggregate 19. Okay.
Yeah.
And you were placed in a school you didn't choose.
Yes.
Okay. We will find out.
We was the first batch to started the free SHS.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. First free SHS batch. Okay. All right. We'll get you an answer to that. Thank you, Lucky. Let's go to Oyibi. Hi, Matilda. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning, Coach.
What's your question?
Okay, mine is not a question; it's a submission.
Sure.
For the one who said maybe the ward had 9 and couldn't get the first choice at the school with a sign. When my brother was going to school, one thing that we realized was, even though the ward had 9, when the school placement is being made, and say all the A's that he had or all the grades that he had sums up to 500, and someone's own who also had 9 sums up to say 555, it will pick that person before the other one who had the 500. So I'm sure maybe the number of students who also applied also counts when it comes to the picking of schools, when it comes to the grade A schools, the cumulative grades that they had. So maybe when the number is up, then they will shift it to the next school, and then they will see whether you get the placement in the next. So I think that was what happened with such an issue.
Okay. All right, Matilda. Thanks for that. Matilda saying that in her experience, it's not just the aggregate, but sometimes the actual grades are brought into
the raw scores.
Yes. Okay. Festus is in Ejumako. Festus, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Not bad, my brother. Are you?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. What's up?
My daughter got 8. And she went 2 times. The first school was Weggy, second national, third was Adric, and the 4th was Atima Senior. And she was posted to Atima Senior 8. I get 8. What's around the step?
What did she want to study? What Science.
Yes.
Okay. So aggregate 8 and posted to 4th choice, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. We'll ask about that as well for you. It's the Super Morning Show, and the whole nation is concerned about how our children are being placed in the SHSs. It's not just this year. Since the automated placement system was initiated in 2005, every year there are issues. Why? Why do we even have repeats of certain issues? Are we unable to solve them? What are the root causes? And has the automated system actually made placement better than before it was introduced? What do we need to do to make this system work? Because it has to work. It has to work for all of us. And because of how important this issue is, we've made sure that all the important stakeholders are here to answer your questions. So let's say good morning to the PRO of the Ministry of Education, Mr. Kwasi Kwarteng. Good morning to you, sir. We also have in the studio the head of the PR unit for the Ghana Education Service, Cassandra Twum Ampofo. Good morning to you too.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. So listen, let's get straight to it. Maybe we can start with the calls that we had just before we took the break. A few important issues came up. Let's see how we can deal with them quickly. Martina is in Bawe. Now, she said her nephew chose a disco with aggregate 9, but ended up in his fourth choice, which is Suhum Presby. This is the same as the fourth caller's issue, so we can deal with them together. That was Festus in Ejumako. His daughter got aggregate 8 and also ended up in her fourth choice. So they want to know how does that happen? Why would that happen? I don't mind who starts. Anyone can start.
Since I'm now talking, I want to say good morning to your listeners, and that it's a good opportunity to be here to clarify certain issues that is coming up. We do have these instances, and if you fall out of your first choice, then it means that the competition there was very keen. And so once you fall off, you come to your second choice, then you compete with those that have chosen your second choice as the first choice. And so that competition remains. And then if you are not able to also compete with those that have chosen your second choice as their first choice, you move to the third choice. Now, apart from that, we may also ask what course. There are certain courses that are very competitive. Science. Most of our students want science courses. And so they choose their school and they choose the science. So it wouldn't surprise me to get probably a 10. This is 9, right? So an aggregate 10 getting in that school with a different course, and he not getting because of the science. And sometimes now general art is also coming up, right? So there are so many factors. And then we can also look at the residential preference. Some you may want boarding house, and the space for boarding house might be full then when the system is being run, and so it cuts you off. I always say that should everybody get the same aggregate, have the same raw score, have the same whatever should be, there should be a tie. You still cannot get into the school because of space. We do not have that big space to accommodate all those that have chosen that particular school. And so there may be other factors that we probably would have to get into the system. If the technical people were to be here when they open up and then you see how it follows, then you ask yourself that whose daughter should then go out. So there are many other issues. It's unfortunate that 8 he didn't get Presec, or I don't know the school that you mentioned.
It was Wegehe.
It was Wig.
Yes. Wegehe was first choice.
Yes, we have Wegehe. Even with 8, it's difficult because we have some with 1s, 9 1s, 8 1s, not getting into Wegehe. And again, should all candidates that chose Wegehe get 9 1s, same raw score, same science, whatever, space will cut them off because we can't accommodate all. And Wegehe is one of our oversubscribed schools, I must say.
Okay.
Yeah, I think to add up to what my sister Cassandra said, when I was coming, I was listening to you, and you were also making some remarks as far as the entire placement process is concerned. If we look at the placement process, it's not entirely automatic in terms of if you want to measure by 100% ratio, because you are looking at a placement system that is categorized under automatic placement, self-placement, and then the manual placement. And of course, I'm sure as the discussion goes on, we may be looking at, for instance, the protocol which became an issue in recent times. If we look at, for instance, the automatic placement, what the automatic placement does is to place students in schools based on their choices. But of course, within that placement, it makes other considerations to it. I think Cassandra had gone into it, but just briefly. For instance, I just want to give you a scenario. You have about 600 students who applied for, let's say, a school like Presec, and then out of these 600 students, you get about 400 who applied for science and had grade 6. And you have to just suppose that with the declared vacancies in Presec. So assuming the declared vacancies is about 200, what you then have to do is to extract 200 out of the 400 students who all had grade 6. And what essentially you are going to do is that, first of all, you may have to look at their raw score. Even though about 400, all of them had grade 6, definitely some will have higher raw scores as compared to the others. And so the system is going to pull them out first. Again, you may be also considering issues like residential status. So you may even have somebody who had grade 9, grade 12, but because of the residential status, because I mean the in terms of the competition at, for instance, day section, it's possible such a person may enter into the school. Even on the basis of the program, you may hear a parent saying that somebody had 12, but he entered into Egehe, but my ward has 6 and could not enter. Probably such a person may have picked, let's say, visual arts or general arts. And when you compare to the general sciences, the competition may be quite higher or keener. So all those variations come in. But this is what the system does. This year, for instance, the system was able to place about 60, let me confirm that.
It's almost 70%,
69.24% through the automatic placement. And so what essentially it means is that the remaining who were unable to match any of their schools, the system will not impose a school on them, because there are a lot of factors that goes into making a determination into which school you go. Some may want to, have association with certain schools. Some may want to get closer to family and other variables that contribute. So what we do is to give you an opportunity to go and select a school. But before I even go there, we're back to even the automatic placement. With the scenario I gave, when you miss your first choice, the system obviously will consider you for your second choice. But remember, at every point, your second choice is also somebody's first choice. And so it is possible that by the time the system brings you your second choice, it may be full. Then it considers you for your third choice. Your third choice again could also be somebody's first choice. So it will run till it gets to the fifth choice. And then if you are unable to match with any of the schools there, we do not impose a choice on you. We give you an opportunity to go and do self-placement. So yes, it is possible for somebody to get aggregate 9 and still miss the first choice based on the raw score, based on the residential status, based on the program choice. And
at what point does the computer place a student? Because we've heard people say, I didn't choose the school, but the computer placed me there.
Okay, very well. So, on the face value, it is almost impossible. Of course, we are not also running away from the possibility of clerical and administrative errors in the whole process. But with previous years and in recent times, what we've done as a ministry, together with our mother agency, Ghana Education Service and TVS, is to introduce what we call test for confirmation. The test for confirmation is an innovation which probably addresses most of these errors that probably could happen. You may have people who probably could be males, but at the end of the day, you may place them in female school. So from the last 2 years, what the Minister for Education, Dr. Cassandra Twum, has done is to introduce the test for confirmation. What we do is to send you back the list of schools that you selected. And the whole idea is for you to go through and check if there are any errors. Then you forward it back to the ministry
before the placement
exercise is done. A lot of times what happens is that you may get students, or you may get parents who may opt for day option, so that it will increase their chances of getting into the school. But after that, they will come and tell you that, no, we never selected day, and you place that in day. That's what I'm saying, that with regards to the automatic placement will place you based on the choices that you made. It is the more reason why you had still around 30% people that were not placed, because based on the residential status, based on the program of choice, based on their courses, if you mix any of this, we won't impose a choice on you. So it is almost impossible on the face value for anybody to probably select boarding and the system gives the person day. A lot of times you probe and ask the person to bring his placement form, and you check that there's actually day that the person selected. But of course, in their attempt to also, and their desire to enter into most of their choices of schools, they make such claims. But
that is interesting, and it's important, because that makes up quite a bulk of the complaints that are coming through. People saying that you've placed my child in a day school that's miles away from where we live. It's a common one. So I want to know, is it the position of the ministry and the GS that happens because of dishonesty, of the applicant?
Oh, no, really. I think we just quickly have to go through what the selection process is. If we look at the selection process, students and parents, largely they are eligible to select say schools. You look at the first school being a category A school, you have an option of selecting 2 category B schools, and then of course category C schools. I think there's about 5 of them. And then there is also the C option, which is a compulsory day or some special boarding school. A lot of times what happens is that in most of the cases, you may have such a student indeed selecting the day school, but ordinarily, a lot of them, when they select, expect that you place them in any of their first 3 choices. So, to be able to ascertain some of these claims, I'm not saying it's not possible. That's why our resolution centers are there in all the 16 regions for students and parents to go and verify some of these anomalies. But a lot of times, when you ask of the placement form, you realize that indeed, most of these students choose the choices that have been given to them. That's why I'm saying that it is not possible for you to be placed in a choice that you did not make. If you do not match, then we take you to self-placement. Other than that, all the 100% could be placed through the automatic places.
Lucky called us from Manloka. He said that he was one of the first. He was a member of the first cohort of free SHS. And he said that he got aggregate 19 and ended up in a school he didn't select at all. So he's from the Ashanti region, I believe, but he ended up at Anloga SHS, right? But he says that he didn't select it. It wasn't one of his choices at all.
I'm sure GES can give us more clarification.
Yes, we do review after every placement. And so it is possible that time, because some years back, if you do not get any of your chosen schools, the system will pick a school for you.
Right. That used to be the case.
That used to be the case.
Right.
Okay. And so then we had complaints that why did you put me here? I didn't choose the school. So it was as a result of that complaint. That's how the team met again, the technical committee, and reviewed. Then if that is the case, if you are not able to get any of your chosen schools, let's allow you. Let's upload the schools with vacancies on the system, and then you would go through again and you self-place yourself. So that was the introduction, why we introduced the self-placement model on the portal. So I may be true then. Yeah.
So are you saying
when
that
it's started,
nobody should be placed automatically when they haven't chosen the school?
Yes, now if you've not chosen the school, we will not put you there. The system will not even.
So when it happens, because I think there was somebody who mentioned that they had been placed in a school they did not choose.
That's the one I just talked about.
That's lucky. So that shouldn't happen this year.
No, that shouldn't happen. That's not even possible. If you do not choose, that's what we say. The IT people say garbage in, garbage out, or whatever. What you put in the system, unless probably they fill on a choice for this. It's a form, a paper, and they fill at school, and it's just human beings that upload. So it could be. But the system itself will never put a student in a school that he or she did not choose. It is not possible. And then you talk about the day that why is it that we post or probably they end up in day schools. The system doesn't even allow that this time.
So if a parent is complaining that my child has been sent to a day school miles away.
No, the miles away, Kojo, it doesn't happen. The system will not even allow you. So even some years back, it was 30, the catchment area within. Now, they have structured the system in such a way, if you are choosing the school and you are going off, it would limit you. So definitely the day option that you would choose would fall within your catchment area. It would never go outside the catchment area.
So these parents, and there are some in the reports that we played, who are saying that their children have been placed in day schools miles away. You are saying that their complaint is not possible?
It is. We have to probably look at it. To me, that would be a special case. Because when you are choosing, in the selection of the 6 schools, when you get to the day, it would not allow you to move outside your catchment area. Like, Accra, or probably around you, and then day school somewhere in Medina. It won't.
Because you're going to select your region, your district, and the system has been programmed in such a way that it's going to impose a 16-kilometer radius on you. So you can't even go beyond that. But some of the parents' concerns could be legitimate, but like Cassandra said, we have to interrogate them, because a lot of times their case present different selections to them. I mean, they discuss, we are going to have selection on A, B schools. They go and they follow their friends and go and do contrary. So until you see the placement form where you can review the selections that was made, I mean, some of these conversations, you'll be having it, I mean, within a different context. But like Cassandra indicated, it is almost impossible that if you do not make a choice, the system will place you. What the system will do is to give you an opportunity to go and make a choice within the self-placement model.
So, Kwasi, you made a distinction for us. You said that we have automatic placement, self-placement, and manual placement.
Yes.
So this year, the stats we have, the 69 odd %, that was automatic placement.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Which means that the self-placement and manual placement will make up the remaining 31% because they were not placed automatically. Am I correct so far?
The self-placed. Yes, so they are 30 points.
Point something, almost
Point
30%.
something, yes.
30.76.
Yes.
Very good. Very
Adding on to the automatic placement
Okay.
percentage.
All right.
Yes.
So 69% were placed automatically, and you've explained the reason why. No matter what happens, there will be some people who will fall outside the automatic placement because of space limitations and so forth. So what that means is that our system is not yet perfect, which is understandable. Nothing is perfect.
Yeah.
But since 2005, this has been the problem, that the system cannot automatically place everyone. And then we see things like protocol and so forth creeping in, which everybody complains about. So what's the solution? I mean, why have we been unable from 1 year to the next to solve that particular problem of ensuring that the system genuinely can place everyone?
Kojo, if parents would allow their wards to attend the schools that they've gotten, it would solve the problem. We allow them to choose 6 schools. On merit, you can fall into any of the 6 chosen schools. But hey, if it's not the first choice, then no school. That is the problem.
Do you
So we should come to a point where we will all agree that out of the 900 plus senior high schools that we have, if I choose 6 out of them and I get into any of them, I should accept. Of course, we have all our qualified teachers in there. But they will tell you, oh, this and Kojo, I know your school, Augustine. When it gets to NSMQ, you are all hailing Gigi, and so they are home. I want to attend St. Augustine's. I want to attend this Wesley Girls. And I mean, they want that kind of belongingness. So parents will, oh, I want my daughter, I want my son to get into this school. And so if it is not that school, that ends it. We pray and hope that a time would come that parents would also come to the realization, our students would, that we have qualified teachers across in all our senior high schools, and so when you get them, then you just accept it. So you don't come to and then what I've realized this year is that I think we have to also educate parents more on their grades, because it really surprised me when I heard one parent seriously saying that the child had gotten 35. Somebody that had aggregate 9 had gotten a school. Isn't it weird?
Okay,
Yes.
so it looks like people don't understand.
So yes, so
the
it
parent doesn't
don't
understand
exactly.
how
So
the
it dawned on
aggregate
me that
system is
then
working.
when we are, meeting them, we do meet them during SPAM school performance appraisal meetings, and then we have time that we meet the GHS parents and all of that. I
Right.
think we have to really explain how the grading system is.
What do you put out? Is it the raw score? Is the aggregates?
We put out the aggregate and the raw score. On the placement form, you see your aggregate, you see your raw score.
But just to
And
add
so
up to
you
what
get
Cassandra
same
said.
grade, 14, but different raw scores. It's different.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you look at, for instance, this year, the declared vacancies in the schools, you are looking at 557,679. 557,679. Now, if you look at the students who are qualified to be placed, that is 538,399. So essentially, you have even about almost 40,000 spaces that will be left, even if all these 538,399 students are placed and all of them pick
So
up.
fewer students applied than the number of spaces across the country.
Yes, so the challenge is not necessarily an issue of space. it has more to do with the placement regime that we use, which is choice-based. And then you are bound to place the student in that particular school when the person indeed qualifies. But the challenge with not being placed has to do with the fact that whatever variables that should take you to the school, you are also competing with other students who may come from diverse backgrounds with probably better grade system, and even when it comes to their residential status, they may have an upper hand ahead of you.
You've also explained that there is a catchment area criterion as well.
There's a compulsory day.
Yes. Is that part of the problem? Because you have these 557,679 spaces across the country. But if, let's say, 20,000 of them are in the Greater Accra region, yet you have 30,000 students in the Greater Accra region, then in that region, you have a shortage of spaces, don't you? Because they are limited by their catchment area, are they not?
Not necessarily. The catchment area has to do with the day schools, because
only the day schools.
Only the day schools, yeah.
Oh, thank you for that. Okay, so only the day schools have the application of catchment area. But beyond that, students can apply to
anywhere
school,
you want to. Yeah.
But if you are selecting the day option, then it will limit you to your catchment area.
Can I clarify this? So there are schools that students didn't choose at all. With the earlier explanation that you were given. So there are many schools that students didn't choose, because we have many more students choosing specific schools.
Because you are just bound to select 6 schools. Obviously, out of the 111 schools, each and every student will just select 6 schools.
Yes. So there's an issue of attraction. How have we, over the period, since we know there are a lot of students who would want to choose the Cape Coast schools, there are students who choose Presec, who go to Accra Girls, Ebri Girls, the grade A schools.
Yes.
How, and I don't know if it's a GES issue or a ministry issue, how have we tried to make it attractive by way of building infrastructure in all these other areas so that those schools would also be a first choice, for instance, for someone else? Because the reason why people want to go to these schools is also because of infrastructure.
Yes, and we are expanding infrastructure in all the schools. I also think that because some of us are also a factor. Kojo, you are one of them. The way you heal your school.
You can't tell me that's a bad thing.
No, that's not a bad thing. That's on a lighter note. That's on a lighter note. But the reason why we introduced the 30% public equity is to give chance to those in the DAs and the MA, the remote junior high schools, to also get access to these category A schools that we are talking about. It's also a way of attracting them. So we designed the system in such a way that those that have, in fact, when we are even going out for the schools sensitization on school selection, we encourage them. At first, it was like before 2017, you have like 90% of those coming from private schools getting access into these category A schools. Now, when we go out to sensitize them on school selection, we encourage them. You may be somewhere in that farm plains, but do choose a category A school. And once you choose, there's a possibility of you entering that school.
How do you
and so we give them that opportunity.
How do you work that out? Because you're using the raw score.
Good.
Is it the same kind of competition?
It is the same, but the 30% equity, this is how it runs. When they are running the system identifies all those that have chosen, those coming from the public basis schools and have chosen these category A schools. It identifies them and runs them first. So they get, they get their seat in the system before we run the 70% general.
Oh.
Yes.
So that's why some people have said that you favor the public schools than the private schools.
That was the way we also had to let them love the schools. And then you asked about how we can let them get the schools
make the schools
more attractive. Thank you, Kojo. Make the schools more attractive, and this was one of the ways. Right.
Let me ask this. Sorry, unless Mama V, you want to follow up on that?
Are you okay?
Let me ask this, okay? So 557,679 vacancies. Kwasi, you describe them as declared vacancies.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you say it that way? Are there some vacancies that do not get declared?
No, if you look at the placement system, obviously the schools will have to state the spaces available, and based on that, students will be placed there. So as I speak with you, the spaces available is the figure that you mentioned, which is 557,679. So obviously you have to look at the spaces, then you match it up with the number of students who are qualified to be placed. And I mean, if you look at last year, for instance, this year, the spaces always outnumbers even the students who are eligible.
I understood
to be
that
placed.
point. I'm asking why you describe them as declared vacancies. Is it because there are some vacancies that are not declared?
No, no, not necessarily. If you are within the context of the declared vacancies, is the available spaces within the schools, which are declared by the institutions. I mean, more or less the head teachers, because they have to say that Presec Legon can admit, let's say, 1,000 students. Infante Pim can admit 2,000 students. So based on that, when you do the accumulation, that is the figure that you have.
So that figure, does it include the protocol and everybody?
Exactly.
So this 557,679, it includes protocol.
That is the spaces available in the school.
Yes. So it includes protocol. It's not like Wesley Girls might keep some 100 spaces.
No.
This is everything.
This is everything.
So it is out of this number that, first of all, we have the merit-based placement.
Exactly.
Then we also have the protocol. Then we also have what we have seen in these documents.
10%.
10%.
And that is the space in the school.
Yes.
So if a school declares like 500, that they have space for 500 candidates, the system would withhold 10% of the space, run the system automatically. The space for self-placement do, but the 10% is what we work with. Reserve 5 at the national and then give 5 to the schools to serve as stakeholders.
Okay.
So the protocol is space, not candidates.
Right. So the rest of the system runs on whatever is left once the 10% is put aside.
Withheld the space.
Okay. So do you think that maybe the reason why parents and students seem to always want to try and find their way around the system is because of a lack of trust? I mean, we've seen these documentaries. If you are sitting at home praying for your child to get into a school, and it turns out that the cleaner at the Ministry of Education can get someone's child in, regardless of their grades. Do you find that perhaps that is one of the reasons why there is so much conflict around this thing? Because people just don't trust that the automated system is automated.
Could you, first of all, on the subject matter of the video documentary that Manasa showed, it was not the cleaner of the Ministry of Education. So what the ministry had done was to rent a private facility, not hostel, for and use as a resolution center. So
it wasn't even a Ministry of Education cleaner.
No.
Not hostel
It was
cleaner.
not hostel. So it was, I mean, I've heard a lot of people
even he can place people in Wesley Girls.
You see, the possibility is that even as at now, if you walk to any of our resolution centers and present or make a case for any ward, there is a possibility that such a changes could be made. And beyond that, if you look at the protocol, like Cassandra rightly indicated, you have 10% of the declared vacancies we held as protocol, where 5% is given to the stakeholders and the 5% is also given to the general public through the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service. So within that, it is possible you can go there, present your case. I remember last year, for instance, one of the journalists presented a lady who had an accident and for that matter needed a change of school, and we have to get her closer to her family. In that case, I mean, you may get the minister, the DG, or whoever individual assisting. But how is the person able to know that, I mean, within that chain of process, there has been a compromise? So for all you know, I mean, such a person, in this context, the cleaner, turn whichever officer into a Goro person. And then that officer also in turn turned the DG or the Minister for Education into a Goro person. So the possibility is there because you have it as a human interface. It is not as a rigid as the automatic system. You are dealing with human beings. And until, I mean, there is a certain verifiable, how do you call it, arrangement where you may have to verify up to the last person, it's possible. But, I mean, within this context, it was not a staff from the Ministry of Education. It was apparently...
I'm just saying that the fact that it's possible.
Yes, because...
The fact that it's possible for someone, such a rank outsider to the system, to be able to effect such a change.
So what again could be the possibility is that earlier on we indicated that the schools also have 5% of the protocols. I mean, such an outsider could even have gotten that protocol from the school. Because the schools, for instance, if you look at PRESEC, if PRESEC has, for instance, declared 500 vacancies and 5% of that vacancies is for them, what they only do is to just compile and upload on the portal, and whichever officer at the Ministry of Education just have to accept or confirm. So it may be from a various sources, whether from the school, whether the person had it from any of our resolution centers or spoke to an officer at the ministry. That possibility is something that we cannot run away from.
I brought this guy up as an example of how the system can be compromised. I wasn't hoping that we would spend the whole time trying to explain him away. He's an example, okay? However he managed to do it, and I see you trying to explain how he may have managed it, but however he managed to do it, the fact remains that there are people, even as we speak, who are running around with money hoping they can pay someone to change the placement.
It's largely
their
based
child.
on what Mama V was saying, the desire of people to get into some schools, and the fact that whether we've also paid much attention to the other schools. Because, I mean, we cannot pretend that people may want to go to Augustine. If we look at, for instance, Wesley Girls, a school established in 1836. If you want to compare to my school in Asante Achim, where I come from, or Mine, which was just established in 1992. Obviously, Wesley Girls might have built some culture, some level of attraction that obviously is causing much desire. But
that exists everywhere. And by the way, I would like us to take a few more calls so we can solve a few more problems for our audience. So listen, give us a call, 0302 216 541 055 1111 997. Wherever you go in the world, there will be preferred schools.
Yes.
There will be the Harvards and the, so it is up to us running the education system.
For me, what I believe is that
access is still fair.
For me, what I believe and what I subscribe to is that, of course, aside the internal controls that we've strengthened at the GES, the placement centers, and the Ministry of Education, there have to be, more or less transparency and auditing into the protocol regime, particularly those who submit the protocol through whichever individual to the Ministry of Education or at the school level. That conversation I agree to. Because you can't have a school just uploading, let's say, 100 people as their protocol. There is no audit scheme. There is no transparency. And so far as it's their protocol, we just have to take it like that.
Mavi had a question, but we'll come to that in a moment. Let's first hear from Jerry in Abokobi. Jerry, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for calling. What's your question?
Yeah, mine is actually not a question, but I think the way the system is running, we'll end up having people sending their wards from the private schools to the public schools whenever they get to GHS 1 or 2. So they can also have the chance to get into this category A schools or whatever they call themselves. Please, I think that the principle of equity, fairness is not working in Ghana. We should tackle this problem. It's going to affect us. Somebody will go to the private school from basic 1 to basic 6, and then when the person gets to JHS 1, switches to a government school, and then in order for the person to get a category A school or category B school. And this is what is happening now.
Okay.
Please, let's look at this system well and apply the principle of fairness, equity. Everybody has an equal chance. The children are crying at home. We don't even believe in the system anymore.
Thank you for that, Jerry. Let's go to New Ashongman. Hi, Daniel. Good morning. Do we have Daniel on the line?
Yeah, Daniel is on the line. Good morning, Kojo.
Good morning, Daniel. Thank you for calling us.
Thank you too.
Right.
My ward attended a public school. She obtained aggregate 19, and she was placed at the C choice, which I'm not happy. I was thinking that at least the first 3 choices she could have been placed. So that's my complaint.
Okay, so your ward got aggregate 19.
Yes.
And got their
Public
what?
school.
Fourth choice? Fifth choice. Okay.
From a public school.
What was the subject?
Home economics.
Home econs.
Okay. All right. We'll put that to our guests. Stephen is in Accra Central. Hi, Stephen. Good morning.
Good morning.
What's your question?
Yeah, my question is on the 30% allocation given to the private schools.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask them whether they can give us the aggregate that these raw school students, these private school students get before they admit into this one of the grade A schools. Because when you look at the whole thing, it's just not fair. But you may know that the in and out of parents trying to get good schools for their children at the basis. And GES is looking at these public schools being rotten away. Then now you are going to set up a higher standard for these public schools in the examination score marking against the public schools, which is not fair. So they should tell us what are the market rates. What I learned that they have been giving them 30% ahead of the private school students. Who can do that? So ask them to clarify that issue for us. It's not that you have given them 30% allocation, then when they get, what marks do they get? What are they to get? So you admit them to this one of the grade school that you are asking them that they also fulfill. You feel, is it on merit? Can you give an answer to that question?
Okay, Stephen, we'll get you that answer. Kofi is in Kumasi. Hi, Kofi. Good morning.
Hi, Kojo. Handsome man. How are you?
Hey, handsome Kofi. Been a long time.
Handsome Kojo. Yeah.
What's up? What's your question?
I want to ask them, the GES people in the studio. We've practiced this computer placement for some time now, and each and every year there is problem. Now we are discussing this today. Next year we will discuss it again. So can't they abolish this computer placement system now and restructure it? Bring on board opinion leaders and other concerned personalities so that they can draw a new computerized program that will be problem free. That is my question to them.
Okay, Kofi, we'll get you an answer. Maybe one more so that we have 5 questions to deal with. Kwasi is in Ebri. Hi, Kwasi. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thanks for calling. What's your question?
Yeah, my comment is I want an explanation from the minister. Well, I read somewhere online that 30% to public schools and 70% to private schools. I want that explanation. Because I don't get it. The public schools who hold the bill, they are more than the private schools. So why should 30% be given to the public schools? And in that statement, he said equity. Equity should be 50-50, not 30-70.
Okay.
Equality is 50-50.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Okay, we'll take one more call. Samuel is at Ridge. Hi, Samuel. Good morning.
Good morning, Kojo. How are you?
Not bad at all, Samuel. What's your question?
Kojo, I don't know what's happening to us with the weather. I'm also coughing, though. Seriously. You should find out.
It's serious, Charlie. Something is happening. I hear there's a problem with the quality of air.
Yeah, I just saw it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the coming days. I hear it's a big issue. So
Okay.
Thanks for bringing it up, Samuel.
Yeah. You see, my niece in Takrady had 9 ones. She only had 2 in French. Chose Archbishop Porter. Do you believe they threw her somewhere around Axim? And they are just close to Takrady, so they wanted to just school in Takrady. And she's a brilliant girl. A school that she didn't choose. They have given her that one.
Was it to read science?
Yes, because she's going to read science.
And you say she didn't choose that school at all?
No, at all.
Wow. It's not possible. Okay. We'll get your issue addressed. Thank you, Samuel, for bringing it up. Oh God, there's a lot to go with. We have 6 calls. Let's take them one by one. We'll start with Jerry in Bukubi. Now he is concerned that based on your plan to provide a certain 30% window for the public schools, you might end up seeing a flooding of public JHSs, from JHS 2 and 3. People will start pushing
Which is
their
happening
kids
in some cases.
into the schools, and then you are going to have a problem there as well. So what's the plan for that, Ministry, GES? I don't mind who takes this one.
Sorry. I think the 30% public equity, we introduced this policy to serve the vulnerable in the society. Like I indicated earlier, a time came that in these and let me just say that the 30% is for the category A schools, not all schools. Yeah, so a time came that these category A schools had only private students attending, those that have attended private JHS.
Why was that? Is it because they had the best grades?
They were having the best grades, 1, 2, because they were paying school fees. It was also for those that could pay, right? And then others, right? But we sat down and then looked at the system again and said, no, why don't we give chance? And we realized that our students were not choosing. Our basic, our public junior high candidates were not choosing these category A schools for fear. And they thought that they might not even get. For them, Wesley girls at this Saddle and these schools are for the elites. As for us, we can't get in there. I remember 4 or 5 years ago, we had a whole community accompanying one student to Prempeh College. They were in a bus. They were so excited that one student alone had gotten Prempeh. And the chief, the parents, a whole bus moving to Prempeh College. The excitement. So for us, we thought that, no, let us look at the system and then help those in the remote areas, encourage them to choose this category, let them know that they can also get into Wesley Girls and be like the others that they wanted to become. So that was the reason why we introduced it. It's not that we wanted to favor only the public. Let me say that it's also not that we give chance to any grade to get in there. Those that are coming from the public basic schools also do very well. We have some getting the 8 ones and the 9 ones and the 10 ones. And first, they were not choosing at all. So now if they choose, we have to get them in the system. But again, we can still look at it. We review the policy every year to look at the shortfalls and where we can make it better. And so if people complain that this and that, we have to look at it. Of course, we can always come back to the table and look at the policy again and get it reviewed. And that will be at the ministerial level because
Right.
we implement as GES. We don't formulate.
Then let me ask the ministerial representative if that is the plan. I ask this because if Cassandra's explanation is as it is, then it was introduced to solve a certain problem that we may not still have. Currently, you don't pay fees to go to SHS, so that inequality is not there anymore. All that is left is meritocracy. So if private school students are getting higher grades, then do they not deserve to get the best schools?
I think on the face value you have a point, but the angle upon which this policy came from, of course, let me hasten to add that this is not a policy that is just always ensuring equality, like the gentleman when he called, he said, is an equity policy, which is more or less an affirmative decision. Previously, the challenge was that, you had people who patronize the public schools, who, love these deprived and peri-urban communities are generally underserved and poor. What happens is that they patronize these public schools, at the basic level. But when they have to go to the secondary level, because a lot of them don't even get school, so what happens is that they then have to then pay. And look at the incoherence. At the basic level, these are people who could not pay. But when they get to the secondary level, they have to pay for quality education, not from government institutions, but from private institutions. So you had a lot of private schools, secondary schools springing up. The Kwasi Kwarteng, the Angels, and all those schools springing up. And on the contrary, you had those people who patronize private education at the basic level. When they also get to the secondary level, then they have the opportunity largely within the public school. There was a sharp reverse. And so as part of, government affirmative policy, especially at the introduction of free SHS, they said we have to indeed look at this so that not necessarily should the category A school largely be the prerogative of those coming from the private schools, but then we also have to look at it from the broader perspective and create this affirmative policy or affirmative action where you can also have a lot of those students coming from the peri-urban and the rural communities also having opportunity within those category A schools. So we just wanted to straighten a certain imbalance, and the imbalance was that, like I've described earlier, where those who attended the public schools end up in the private secondary schools, and the reverse was also, however, true within those who attended the private schools.
That imbalance doesn't exist today, does it?
No, I mean, largely, if you look at, for instance, affirmative policies, obviously, it comes from somewhere, and at every point, it may create affection and disaffection to the parties that it affects. Yes, to a larger extent, that imbalance may not necessarily be that significant in terms of the magnitude, because now you are looking at education being free at all levels. But it still does not change the fact that within the public basic schools, a lot of them do not have opportunity to be in the secondary schools, particularly the early schools.
Right now, why do they not have that opportunity?
I mean, it boils down to the grade that they all get.
It's a meritocracy situation then. Is that not what we want the automated system to do? To place people based on merit, regardless of where they come from?
Yes, but obviously Kojo, you agree with me that you obviously have to come from somewhere. If you look at, for instance, Presec, and at every point 3,000 declared vacancies, I mean hypothetically, and that 3,000 is always taken by sections of Ghanaians. Obviously, as a government, you should be concerned, especially if you happen to be the person paying for, the fees of all parties. Definitely, you should be concerned. And so it's just an equity mechanism. We are not saying that is a very sufficient mechanism, but there's an equity mechanism to also give opportunities for all of
that your concern would be to improve the quality of education at basic
level. The two can be done together. So that the two can be done together.
If you create this affirmative action as you describe it, then you are removing the need to improve the education.
Not necessarily,
because there will be a balance created artificially. Don't you want to rather allow the meritocracy to let your students find their level, let it be clear where the shortcomings are, so that you can pump resources into improving basic education, so that those who come out of it will do just as well as those in the private schools?
Like I indicated, the two can be done together. And of course, obviously, there are a lot of interventions. I'm sure Cassandra may take us through Gallup, where about 10,000 schools at the basic level, consciously there has been a direct intervention for those schools to uplift them and also make them very high-performing schools. But I'm saying that you can still balance the improvement of schools at the same time giving opportunity for people also coming from underserved and deprived communities who also have education at these more or less category A schools. So the two can be done together. And
now that the private schools are identifying a clear disadvantage for them, is it not time to focus on improving the quality of public basic education and removing the affirmative action that is now disadvantaging those who are working hard and getting good grades?
The story should not be made to look like those 30% that comes from basic schools do not even pass. It is not true.
I don't think that's what anyone is suggesting.
In many situations,
what we're suggesting is that the private schools say they are now at a disadvantage, even though they are getting good grades. Nobody should be at a disadvantage.
We can always look at it, but like I said, it would also be at the ministry level. Kojo, before we got here, we were also giving chance to those that were within a specific location to choose these senior high schools within their own, just to let them also feel that, okay, I live at Adenta or probably Hachu, and I can get to Presec. The 30% catchment area allocation then, it wasn't specifically to day schools, it was across. So if you live within a particular community, the senior high school there, the system would also identify you and you get in there. And now we opened it up and then we replace with the 30% equity. So we are always looking at ways to improve. And so your suggestion or thinking that or putting on the table, we have to look at it. It definitely can also be done. Because at every point in time, we have to look at what is helping the system or what is helping the society, and then we adjust. And so I think you have a point that is well noted.
I hear you say that, but I also hear the ministry saying, let's keep it going alongside improving.
No, I'm saying that the two can be done together. At the same time, whilst you are improving the quality of education within the public basic schools, you can still keep an affirmative action so that you do not also disadvantage a lot of people within the context of the those coming from the public schools not having the opportunity.
So that doesn't sound like you're willing to look at it as the GES is suggesting.
No, I'm saying that the two are running together. I mean, I'm sure it will get to a point where those consequential decisions could be made. But for now, the two are still running together as we are seeing.
And I am saying that because from where I sit as GES, we've had countless occasions that after every placement, we look at it together with the ministry, and then where we needed to put in certain measures. Personally, I've had that encounter of having these reviews. And so I think that, yes, it can be done again when the time comes. But what we want to clarify is that people should not think that we are favoring those in the public basic schools. That is not it. They also do qualify. They also get the same good grades that those in the private schools are getting. It was just a way to also help and to serve the vulnerable and the poor in quotes. Yes, in the society.
There was a question from Samuel about the Aggregate 9, the Porters, Archbishop Porter girls, and she didn't get the signs there, but
He
ended up
claims
getting
that
a school that they didn't even
they
choose.
didn't even choose,
You were
yeah.
both shaking your heads. That's not possible.
No.
So what can such a person do?
That's not possible. So we'll probably so Axim Western. So they can go to the Western Regional Education Directorate where our Western Solution Center is, and then they would have a look at it. Yes.
Okay.
Or probably just place a call to our resolution centers and somebody will address their concerns.
Is a number readily available for
Yeah,
us to put
Cassandra
out?
will give it out.
Okay, whilst you try to get that, the question that I had,
the
because just
number-
trying to see if we have some
We've
questions
missed
that we
anything,
haven't
yeah.
put out.
There's
Is
one.
reopening. The dates for reopening, have you changed it? Because today is the original advertised dates for the Form 1s to start school.
No, we indicated that the reopening, the academic work really starts on the 27th. Today, what they are doing is that they are going to the school to pick up their prospectus. So this is the day that the schools are open for first years to come in for registration, and then you pick your prospectus, go home, take your time and buy your stuff, and then 27th you can go to school.
But placements was only announced last Wednesday.
Yes.
Between Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday. Isn't the time too short for that?
But we had
For what you're
academic
saying?
calendar 2 out, and we've never changed the academic calendar. We indicated in the calendar that the first years will be going on the 20th. And we know that once they complete DHS, preparation starts. Once results are released, they continue the preparations. And once we also release the academic calendar, preparation. So all that they were waiting was a confirmation of the schools that they have gotten, and then they finalize the
Is that the
the
norm?
preparation.
Is that usually the shortness of the period of time between the release of the placement and the reopening?
Comparatively, no. But this time too, we've done well by also releasing the placement early, so that they can get
So
a
this is
full-
early?
Yes, it is.
Because the WAEC released their results, I think, on 25th of January.
Yeah.
And then in less than 3 weeks, we also came out with the placement
With the
results.
placements.
But essentially, I mean, on the duration of time, like Cassandra indicated, what is happening is that students are supposed to go to their schools on 20th. So between 20th and 27th is registration and possible orientation. So it is not as though you must be in school by all means at all costs. on
But
the
you have
20th.
outstanding issues. There are people who have various concerns.
Yes, obviously, every year the resolution centers is almost opening for about 4 to 6 weeks, where those outstanding concerns is always being resolved. Because I mean, the reopening of schools at no point. I mean, clearly it's not an event. When we were in school, there were even some times where I mean, whilst we are preparing to write exams, you see some students with their chobos coming in. So it depends on where your issue is resolved
that's
at every
certainly
point.
not ideal.
Yeah,
You don't want that to be
obviously. But I'm saying that in
situation.
practice,
you may get, I mean, some genuine concerns which will take time to be addressed. But I mean,
I'm told we've run out of time, which is a pity. There was only one outstanding issue. I don't think we'll have time to deal with it. Kofi in Kumasi was suggesting we completely abolish the automated system, restructure it following broad consultation and suggestions and ideas from everyone, so we get something that works better.
I think that was a suggestion, so we'll note it. Because we had the manual way of putting students in school.
No, but for me, if it is not broken, you don't fix it.
But it is broken. I think we've demonstrated ways in which it could be much better, ways in which it still is not able to solve all the problems. So
I'm not sure in the you can have 100% efficient system,
but we can have a better one.
Can we get about 20 seconds to take the number?
Yes. Do we have the number ready?
Yes.
This is the number for resolving any outstanding.
Yes, that's a solution call center.
Okay.
So 030 825 801. 030 825 801. So that's the GES call center number.
You can call from anywhere.
From anywhere. Yes, from
anywhere. We'll put that on our social media pages as well.
030 825 801. Thank you.
All the best to all you parents out there. And thank you so much to our two guests, Kwasi Kwarteng, PR of the Ministry of Education, and Cassandra Twum Ampofo, Head of PR at the Ghana Education Service. God bless you both.